Have you ever heard of a lake that seems to thirst for human lives? A place where cars vanish into the depths, bodies are never found, and fishermen swear they hear voices calling their names at night. They say that beneath the calm waters of Lake Lanier, something waits, something that refuses to be forgotten. In the heart of the state of Georgia, in the United States, there lies a lake that, at first glance, seems peaceful, a popular destination for boating, fishing, and sunny weekends. But behind the blue beauty of its waters, Lake Lanier hides a dark history, made of tragedy, ghosts, and secrets that trace back to a time of pain and injustice. Lake Lanier was created in the 1950s, when the government decided to build the Buford Dam, flooding the Chattahoochee River. The goal was noble: to generate electricity, control floods, and supply the growing metropolitan area of Atlanta. But the price of this so-called progress was far higher than anyone imagined. Beneath the waters of the lake lie entire ruins, houses, cemeteries, churches, and even an old town called Oscarville, a once prosperous African-American community that was completely erased from the map after a wave of racial violence in 1912. Their lands were taken by force, and decades later, covered by millions of gallons of water. Since then, many believe that the souls of those who lost everything there never found peace, that they still wander the waters of Lanier, drawing the living toward the same fate they suffered when the dam was completed in 1956. Lake Lanier swallowed more than 250 families and 50,000 acres of land. The flooding happened in haste, and many former residents claim that entire homes were left behind, along with trees, roads, and cemeteries. There are reports that not all the graves were moved, and that coffins and human bones still rest at the bottom of the lake, silent witnesses of a buried past that refuses to be forgotten. And that's where the legends begin. Since the lake was created, unexplained accidents have become routine. Boats capsizing for no apparent reason, experienced swimmers suddenly vanishing, divers returning to the surface in panic, swearing they felt cold hands grabbing their ankles below. Authorities try to explain the tragedies as a result of uneven depths and treacherous currents, but locals tell a different story. A story about the spirit of Lake Lanier, an invisible force that lives within those waters and feeds on the lives of those who come too close. According to legend, the curse began right after Oscarville was flooded. They say the cries of injustice echoed for so long that the waters absorbed the pain and fury of those who died unfairly. And ever since, the lake became a living graveyard, where the past refuses to fully sink. One of the best-known tales is that of the so-called Lady of the Lake. In 1958, 2 women fell from a car that plunged off a bridge over Lanier. Only one was found soon after the other vanished into the depths. 31 years later, divers discovered her body, still inside the car, resting in the lake's dark bottom. Since then, dozens of witnesses claim to have seen a female figure emerging from the mist, dressed in old clothes, floating above the water. Some say she tries to warn of danger. Others believe she simply wants company in the silence of the abyss. But the Lady of the Lake is only one of many stories surrounding Lanier. There are also accounts of voices echoing through the trees, as if the wind carried lamentations. Fishermen speak of mysterious lights that dance on the surface, disappearing the moment anyone tries to get closer. Drivers report seeing shadows crossing the bridges at night, human shapes that vanish the instant the headlights touch them. And as if all that weren't enough, the number of deaths recorded at the lake is terrifying. Since the 1950s, more than 700 people have lost their lives, their drownings, boating accidents, disappearances. Some call it coincidence, others a curse. What few know is that the bottom of Lake Lanier is treacherous. Submerged trees still stand, their twisted branches like outstretched arms. Old houses still have intact rooftops, and ghost roads lead nowhere. Divers describe the feeling of swimming above a dead city, where the silence is so thick you can hear your own heartbeat. And it's in this setting, a cemetery drowned by water, that imagination takes life. Many believe the trapped souls below cannot bear the darkness and seek something or someone to replace them. Some say the lake pulls people, that it chooses them, that on certain nights, when fog covers everything and the wind turns cold, you can hear the sound of submerged bells, and soon after, the splash of a single dive. Authorities try to keep the place safe, but Lanier's reputation is so dark that many locals avoid swimming there, especially at night. Even so, the lake keeps attracting visitors year after year, as if something in its depths calls irresistibly. Maybe Lake Lanier is not just a body of water, but a body filled with memories, pain, and echoes of what was lost. And maybe, just maybe, it's still alive, breathing beneath the surface, waiting for the next soul daring to stare into its bottomless gaze. I remember the first time I saw Lake Lanier up close. The surface was calm, mirroring the gray sky of a late afternoon. But there was something strange about that silence, a kind of quiet that listens back. A soft breeze passed, and for a moment I swear I heard something, a faint sound like muffled voices rising from the depths. Locals say the lake speaks, not with words, but with feelings. There are stories from divers who claim to feel invisible pressure deep below. One said that, around 100 feet down, the water suddenly turned freezing cold, and something grabbed his arm hard. He surfaced in panic, and when he looked, his skin was covered in pale marks, shaped like fingers. No piece of equipment could have caused that. Another story happened in 2012, on a summer night. A group of friends jumped off a boat to swim, but one of them never came back. It took divers days to find the body, tangled in branches of dead trees, standing upright at the bottom, right beside what looked like the remains of a submerged house. Experts called it an accident, but locals say something else. The lake called him. What's most terrifying is how Lanier seems to choose when to act. Some days, everything feels calm. Other nights, the wind shifts, the water darkens, and the fog rolls in like a curtain covering the shore. That's when the stories begin. boats that suddenly die, phones that lose signal, and voices whispering the names of the living from somewhere within the mist. They say that when the lake calls you, you feel it first a chill, then the sense of being watched, and finally an irresistible pull toward the water. That's when it takes you, and no matter how many divers search, Lake Lanier rarely gives its victims back easily. The Georgia Department of Natural Resources admits that Lanier is one of the deadliest lakes in the United States. Hundreds of deaths and disappearances have been recorded, along with dozens of paranormal sightings. Men claiming to see figures walking across the surface, women drifting through the fog, boats sailing with no one aboard. The most famous case happened in 2017, when a fisherman reported seeing strange lights beneath the surface, as if something was glowing deep below. He shined his flashlight and saw what looked like a city, streets, poles, even rooftops, all submerged, waiting to be rediscovered. Hours later, he was found disoriented on the shore, unable to remember how he got out of the water. Some say he saw Oscarville, others believe he saw something older, a wound that never healed. Today, Lake Lanier still lies there, beautiful, vast, and seemingly peaceful. But those who know its story understand the weight it carries. Beneath its surface rests a history of injustice, tragedy, and loss. A silence too heavy to be natural. Maybe the lake is just a victim, a mirror of human cruelty, of everything we've tried to bury. Or maybe it's become something more. A guardian, a warden of memories. And if it's true that places can absorb the energy of what happened there, then Lake Lanier is more than just a lake. It's a liquid grave, a reminder that history never fully sinks. They say that on certain nights, if you're quiet enough, you can still hear the church bells of Oscarville ringing beneath the water. And if you listen closely, you might see something rising through the mist, a woman in white, calling out for someone to join her. Maybe she's calling you. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark waters of Lake Lanier, leave a like and share this video with someone who loves real mysteries. And tell me in the comments, do you believe places can hold on to the energy of past tragedies? Or is what happens in Lanier just coincidence and superstition? Subscribe to Urban Secrets so you don't miss the next episode, where we explore the hidden truths the world tries to bury. Until then, stay away from waters that are too calm. They often hide the deepest secrets